She's forced to sit on the sofa in nothing but a diaper, sucking on a pacifier. And Larry would tell her, if you let it fall out of your mouth, very bad things are gonna happen. He would force her to sit there watching kids shows. If she tried to get up, he would zip tie her ankles and wrists, and she would be stuck there until her mind went completely numb. 10 years ago, a man named Larry Ray had walked onto an elite private college campus to visit his daughter, who's a student there. He ends up staying on campus, living in his daughter's dorm, and brainwashing all of his daughter's friends. He starts a decade-long cult. The Gambino crime family was at its height, one of the most powerful American mafia families. Larry's best friend, Bernie Kerik, the New York City police commissioner, he wanted to put an end to the Gambino crime family's reign of terror. And conveniently, his best friend Larry Ray knows a few people on the inside. FBI agent Gary officially brings Larry in as a confidential informant for the FBI to get inside information on the Gambino crime family. Gary slowly, after years, realizes that Larry is not an informant for the FBI. He's an informant for the mob. In 2000, he gets arrested for the pump and dump scheme. In 2004, his wife Teresa files for divorce and custody, stating that Larry was abusive. 2005, Larry files for bankruptcy. 2005, he loses custody of his daughters. 2007, he's arrested for kidnapping his daughter Talia. And the one person that he blames for all of this is not himself. He blames Bernie Kerik. Larry has a few members that he's super focused on: Isabella, Felicia, and Claudia. He would bring in Felicia into the car, drive on the highway, and stop at the most isolated, creepy rest stop there is. Get out and don't come back until you find someone that's willing to have intimate relations with you, and you better record it. If Felicia didn't listen, she would be punched in the face, slapped, pulled by her hair, punched in the stomach, and choked. But as for how Larry brainwashes them, all of it comes down to Adderall. Adderall, the ADHD medication, controlled substance, stimulant. Larry would force the members to stay awake for days at a time, force feeding them up Adderall pills. And by hour 48, they're believing whatever Larry's telling them.
So I'm going back to bed. Goodbye, guys.
Why are we doing
Good
that?
night.
Why are we doing that?
I hear a pill bottle opening and closing.
Too late. I took Adderall.
How many?
Just a half pill. I want to go change my clothes. I don't want to be in here. So excuse me.
Do not leave it. Do not leave the room, Felicia. You're in danger to yourself and others,
I'm
clearly.
not. Excuse
Do
me.
not leave the room.
What? What's the
You're
problem?
unstable and you're violent. Stop.
I'm not unstable. I'm not violent.
You just assaulted me.
I wasn't trying.
You are
to-
behaving like a criminal right now.
I'm sorry that I hurt you. I just want to be alone.
Claudia is sitting in front of a New York City judge, glancing around the courtroom, and she clears her throat. Claudia looks at the judge and tells them that her family has hated Larry Ray for the past 3 generations. It trails all the way back to her grandfather. Once Claudia was old enough, her parents told her in a very serious conversation that she would grow up and go to Sarah Lawrence College in New York because she needed to kill Larry Ray and Talia Ray. It was the only way Bernie Kerik, the New York City former police commissioner, was going to send them money. But she told the judge that's before she got to know Larry. Then she realized what a kind soul Larry is, and for her to do this to him was so heinous, and she just wants him to finally find peace and happiness, and she wants to come clean. The judge is speechless. Yalitza takes Claudia's place on the stand. I'm here because my parents are dealers and money launderers who pimped Felicia, my older sister, out when she was a child. My parents have been plotting for us to kill Larry since we were young, which is why the girls state to the judge that after years of trying to murder Larry Ray, they don't want to do this anymore. They don't want to kill him. They want to take care of him. Ma'am, you're testifying against an eviction notice.
And what will happen next?
The judge does nothing. They get evicted. Lee Chen met Larry in prison, which we're not off to a great start, right? But they became buddy-buddy, and naturally, when they got out, Larry told him he was going to be staying in his daughter's dorm room, and now that it's summer break, they got to move off campus. But it's been a week, and there is no indication that Larry has been looking for a temporary space to live. Instead, all these college kids are here, sleeping in the living room every day, doing push-ups every single morning, and it's weird. Lee Chen has been trying for the past 5 years to kick Larry out of his apartment, but he has refused to leave. So for 5 years, Lee Chen would have to pay his mortgage, and Larry would rack up over $7,000 a year in electricity bills, and he would not vacate. He changed the locks, refused to let Lee Chen back in. Lee Chen thought it'd be 2 weeks. It's been 5 years. That's what they were in court for. Larry convinces Claudia to start sex work because that's the only way she can afford to pay him back quickly for emotional distress and fake medical bills. He would keep every single penny that she would make from each client, and that would be the pattern for the next few years. Claudia's life starts rapidly deteriorating. So Claudia is no longer living with Larry. She's living in hotel rooms nonstop, paying him for all this sex work. Felicia is regressing into a child, being forced into diapers, just being smacked around all day. Isabella is physically and sexually being abused and mentally and emotionally, but on surface level, it doesn't seem as bad because she is the favored one. Claudia said, "I could feel the warmth fade from my heart. I was scared I would become the cruel, godforsaken person Larry wanted me to be. I felt myself growing colder every day. With each lie I told, every time I was forced to prostitute myself, every moment with every client, I felt myself getting more and more numb." Claudia is going through a range of emotions, moving back and forth between the stages of trauma. I mean, the only time she would feel a little bit better is on the off chance she would meet a client that was kind of nice. But there was one client that Claudia could not let go of. His name is Stuart, and Larry is almost staring at Claudia, looking amused. "What? Do you have feelings for him or something? Stuart?" Claudia freezes because she knows that she wrote about it in her journal. She would journal, meaning Larry could have easily seen it. Claudia's staring at Larry. I mean, a little bit. Larry would force Claudia to strip, and for the next 7 hours, he ties her to a chair. "I'm gonna waterboard you. Is that what you want?" Her hands are tied behind the chair backing. Her legs are tied to the chair legs. She's completely... He starts suffocating her with a pillow, but it's taking too much time. He grabs the leash and collar that she has in the room. It's for the clients if they want to explore. And he puts it around her neck, starts choking her until the point that she passes out multiple times in the span of 7 hours. But it's not humiliating or degrading enough for Larry. He drags Claudia up off the chair, throws her into the bathroom, and shoves her head in the toilet water. He grabs her and throws her back on the chair, and he gets one of those drugstore plastic bags from Dwayne Reed, and every time Claudia breathes, he would put the plastic bag over her head, and the plastic bag would stick to her mouth and then get stuck. I mean, she can't get it out of her mouth. It starts sticking to her eyes and her nose. He would only stop once she was close to passing out. After 8 hours of torture, where Larry and Isabella took a break in the middle to eat burgers and fries from a diner nearby, Larry and Isabella would just walk out of the hotel room as if nothing had happened. Claudia would be left shivering on the floor, traumatized. And even then, she did not turn on Larry because he had all those videos of her. He had confessional videos where she confesses to felonies, where she's having intimate relations with married men. Larry and Isabella and Talia, the daughter, would actually spend quite a bit of money during the time Claudia was forced to engage in sex work. Meanwhile, back at the house, Felicia is getting pretty bad. She has fully regressed into an almost childlike state, unable to take care of herself, just going through waves of emotions.
Give them a chance to answer. Hello! Back up, lady. Lady, back up. Back up. Don't violate my space again.
An email blast is what kickstarts the investigation into Larry Ray's cult. A massive email is sent out to a lot of the students at Sarah Lawrence with a link to Claudia's escort website. She lists her prices, her services, but also uploaded a full confessional video where she admits to poisoning Talia Ray and Lawrence Ray. And in the video, you can clearly tell she's being forced to do this. She's under duress.
Claudia. Yeah. So you're saying you put mercury on where? On the doorknobs in the hospital?
Yeah. Your food.
Other things I touched? Or anybody touched?
Yeah.
So is it possible that you poisoned medical personnel, like doctors and nurses up there?
Yes.
The former roommates from Sloan and Woods 9, the ones that never joined the cult, Gabe, Max, Juliana, and Raven, they're all plotting ways to get Claudia out of this. This is like 10 years later. They're all grown up, graduated college. They've all moved on with their lives.
The email was sent 10 years later?
Yes.
And they still got it?
They still got it.
But who sent the email?
Through Claudia's Gmail. It was probably Larry.
Oh, to humiliate her.
Claudia, yes.
But it ended up saving her.
Yes. So they land on reaching out to the Department of Homeland Security, getting in contact with detectives specializing in sex trafficking, and they do that. When they're done, the detectives are staring at them, and they can almost see one's lip twitch. Because even as they're saying it out loud, it sounds unbelievable. The detectives do not say a single thing. I mean, they just basically get laughed out of there. So they decide to reach out to a former classmate of theirs, Ezra, who happens to be an investigative journalist. Ezra and James Walsh of New York Magazine would start working on the piece for Larry Ray. The article would go live April 2019. Daniel would see it and realize that his friends did not get out soon after him. It went on for almost 6 years after he left. Felicia would see it from a shelter for those without homes and realize her sister Felicia was still in the cult. Wow. Santos would see it from a shelter for people without homes, but he would defend Larry publicly online. It wasn't until Santos was brought into the FBI office, where he's still sitting there defending Larry. The agent tells him, "We believe you, but do you mind if we just play you a very quick clip?" And it's an audio clip from years ago between Larry and Santos. It's Larry threatening to pulverize Santos with a hammer.
That's when he just realized?
And he looks at the agents. Holy cow. I was in a freaking cult. Claudia's phone rings. It's Stuart. I'm sorry I haven't been in touch, Claudia, but I read an article and I want to help you leave.
No way.
I have a hotel for you in Philadelphia. Go there now. Claudia buys the first train ticket she can to leave New York City and head to Philly. When she finally arrives in Philadelphia, she turns off her phone. The only people that have contact with her for a little while are doctors, therapists, Stuart, and the attorneys that Stuart helped pay for to go up against Larry Ray. February 11th, 2020, Larry is arrested on 9 counts of extortion, conspiracy, forced labor, trafficking, and money laundering. Isabella and Felicia were in the house with him when the FBI came. After Larry was taken into custody, the two of them, Isabella and Felicia, they stay in the house determined to fix things, to get Larry out, to get the truth out there. Pseudologia fantastica, that is what the defense claimed Larry was diagnosed with. Otherwise known...
What is it?
It's otherwise known as pathological lying. Larry would claim that all of this was happening because he too was a victim. His grandfather assaulted him as a child. His grandma would beat him with a cat o' nine tails, which is like a whip with 9 knotted cords at the end. They said his poisoning fixation conspiracy is rooted in the fact that Larry's mom would sneak laxatives into muffins and cupcakes. When the prosecution was puzzled and bamboozled on why Larry continued to live with his alleged poisoners that he was accusing of trying to murder him, why would he have dinners with them? Why would he live under the same roof as them? You know, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't fall under a reasonable line of logic, does it? Mm-hmm. The defense argued, you know that saying? Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer? As for the poisoning, there was no conclusive evidence to suggest that any of them were poisoned. But there were pages upon pages of evidence that Larry trafficked Claudia and made millions of dollars off of her. There is a Hulu documentary called Stolen Youth, and it's really fascinating because while they're filming, they interview Felicia. The first time they go to see her, she's in the weird New Jersey house with the giant holes everywhere, and she's explaining, oh, Larry loves me. Larry's the love of my life, and we're pulling up the grass because Larry is such a dedicated man. That's why Nato loves him. And the next time they interview her, a few weeks later, she's slowly questioning what's real and what's a lie. Then the next time they see her, she's going to therapy and realizes that Larry has fully brainwashed her. Felicia is now free from Larry land. That's what she calls it. But her school loans were defaulted on. Her credit is ruined. Getting her life back on track, even with those impressive degrees, is going to be a huge challenge. Even just going to public restrooms gives her panic attacks because Larry would force her to have intimate relations in public restrooms with strangers. But Isabella would not get away. Daniel said, observing Isabella's dynamic in the group with Larry, there was a clear blurring between father and daughter, boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, Isabella was so desperate to be Larry's person. She would constantly ask Larry about what they were and if they can make it official. And because she refuses to testify against Lawrence Ray, she becomes charged as a co-conspirator. It does appear that the fact that her voice can be heard or she's holding the camera when a lot of the abusive incidents take place, it seems like that also played a huge factor, to which Isabella initially stated, I'm faced with the decision to either cooperate with the prosecution's efforts, which is based on these completely false allegations, or risk being charged along with Lawrence as a co-conspirator, and risk myself up to life in prison if convicted. She chose not to testify against Lawrence. Meanwhile, Larry's out here doing the absolute most during the trial. If there is a testimony or video clip of the victims that he doesn't like the way it presents him, he fakes a seizure. He was ushered out of the courthouse twice on a stretcher with an oxygen mask on with his tongue hanging out. January 20th, 2023, 63-year-old Larry was sentenced to 60 years in prison, essentially a life sentence for someone his age. Isabella would plead guilty to 1 count of money laundering. Felicia said, and Felicia is the subject in most of the videos where Isabella is the one holding the camera. When I first met Izzy, she had a very well-formed moral compass. As time went on with Larry, it wasn't goodness anymore. Her true North Star became Larry. He could say the sky was red, the sky is purple. It wouldn't matter. If he said it, it was true. It was as if God himself had said it. She wanted to be a psychiatrist, a child psychiatrist, no less. You know, she wanted to help people. I would hear her be like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. And she would get so sad. They would have these fights. They would argue. Then Larry would talk her through it and they would just go back to how they were. That's what's so scary, because someone who's truly a good person lost their own sense of self, their own sense of right and wrong. That just speaks to how evil Larry is, that he was able to fully destroy someone. Felicia was asked if she wanted Isabella to go to jail. And she said, I don't want her to go because she's going to use being in jail and being prosecuted as a reason to be angry, as a shield. And she's not going to actually confront the real situation. But if she doesn't go, she has to live with what she did on her own. I pray that she starts to care about herself enough to honor herself and honor the truth of what happened to her and to the rest of us. Isabella would be sentenced to 4.5 years in federal prison as a co-conspirator, which has been a really big topic of conversation. Where is the line between victim and perpetrator? Because it's clear Isabella would not have done any of this had it not been for Larry Ray. The prosecutors even stated themselves that there were a ton of videos of Isabella engaging in, quote, degrading sex acts at Mr. Ray's direction. There are videos of Larry grabbing Isabella, fistfuls of her hair, and shaking her head back and forth in anger. Straight up beating her in other clips. She was cut off from her entire family. She would sometimes call her dad to ask for money, but that was it. Claudia wrote a letter to the judge stating, what I want is to see Isabella heal, process, move on, and live a good, happy life. I do not blame her for any of this. Any of what happened, or even the things she said and did to me.
Wow.
And it's crazy because Isabella said, at times I think about the future. If we get through this, Talia, Larry, and me watching TV, and Talia with her kids and I'm with mine. Things like that. You know, that's the what if. Things like that make me feel better.
Like while she was in prison?
Before her guilty plea. Since her guilty plea, she has publicly condemned Larry Ray for his actions. But I don't know if she means it. Claudia has reunited with her friends and family and has remained pretty private since. Yulitsia graduated from Columbia. She is pursuing her career in the arts. Santos started a new job. Felicia is working as a management consultant and plans to return to medicine one day. Isabella and Larry are in jail, which leaves us with one person left. Talia Ray, Larry's daughter. She is another person that a lot of people have mixed feelings about because there are videos of her laughing at what's happening to her friends, but there's evidence that she was profiting off of Claudia's work, spending tens of thousands of dollars on luxury goods. She introduced her friends to her father. But again, this is after years and years of her father getting in her mind, turning her against her own mom. Prosecutors do refer to her as a co-conspirator, though she was never formally charged. But someone close to Talia states, she was his soldier. Talia is a really loving person, and she is the biggest victim of all. Last she was heard of publicly, there were reports that she was working at a bookstore in North Carolina and is active in the state Democratic Party. And that is the story of the Sarah Lawrence cult.